On today's World Insight, we speak to German Taoist Liu Chengyong. He discusses how he was first introduced to Daoism and how he now promotes this way of life to the West. And we speak to Mark Henry Rouswell, better known as Da Shan. He explains his experience with Chinese comedy and dispels the adage that humor does not translate. Here is our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Traditional Chinese culture has been fascinating to many brilliant minds all over the world. Liu Chengyong is one such Sinophile. Liu hails from Germany, but is president of the German Taoist Association. He has grown an interest in traditional Chinese culture since a very young age. He's devoted to Daoism promotion and has been familiarizing Europeans with traditional Chinese culture. On the sidelines of the Boao Forum for Asia this year, he shared with me how various cultures can learn from one another and how can common human values be created and shared. Master Liu Chengyong, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your time. How did you get into Daoism?
So when I was a child, I was a little bit sick, and my mother found a doctor who's a professional in Chinese medicine, and he suggests I should meditate and practice Qigong, and also change my diet. The diet is very important for the health and for the longevity in Daoism. So that time I already changed to a Xuxingren, like a cultivator. But it's so early, I'm like 4, 5, 6 years, start meditating. And over the time I practice martial arts, different type of martial arts, until I find the perfect martial art fit for me is the Taiji Chuan, Wudang Taiji. So I also get very interested in Daoist scriptures, and start about 10, 11 years, I start reading Dao De Jing and Nanhua Jing, the Zhuangzi and Laozi classical texts.
Wow, that's very impressive. These are very, shall I say, sophisticated philosophical works, particularly Dao De Jing.
Yes, Dao De Jing is very famous in Germany, in Western countries, especially because the philosophy connects with the people directly. And it's very important to have a bridge from this culture of the East to the West, and the Dao De Jing is a perfect bridge or perfect tool to open it.
At the age of 11, when you were reading the Dao De Jing, what did you realize? Or what struck you at that time?
I found a lot of times the Dao De Jing is very complex but very simple at the same time. So the more you read this, the more you understand. Every time you read the Dao De Jing, maybe one sentence or one chapter, you have a new realization, a new impression, and this gives you like a new motivation to learn more things and understand the nature, the universe with a new eye, new impression.
Indeed. Daoism pretty much is a combination of philosophy and religion, isn't it? Yes. The philosophy is based on how the natural world works, while the religion part is very much based on a world that is governed by Dao.
By Dao, yes. In the Dao De Jing, there's a saying, Dao Sheng Yi, Sheng Er, Sheng San, San Sheng Wang Wu. So Dao give birth to the one give birth to the two, and two give birth to the three, and three give birth to the myriad things. We are part of the myriad things. And so you can also understand it in a very scientific way. The Big Bang is the one, so Dao gives birth to this one little point, which is called Big Bang, and then it develops into two. So we have materia and antimatter, right? So we have yin yang, and then it develops into all the things we know nowadays. So the stars, we say Shen, but in fact it's Xing. So the Shen, the spirit or the gods, they are actually beings the stars are beings, the trees are beings. So Daoism developed into a religion based on belief that everything has a soul, everything is a being, the stone, the stars, everything. So we just give them a human image so we can connect with them a little better.
Yeah, beautifully explained. Having said that though, you've been in Wudangshan,
Yes.
practicing Daoism for more than a decade.
Yes.
What was it like, the life there, and your studying with the old masters? How was it like for you?
I have to say I didn't only stay in Wudangshan, but also in different other places. But generally speaking, the daily life is eating bitter. Yeah? So need to live a hard life to experience. If you a very low expectation, you can still be happy. So we say eating bitter is the best taste. So if you drink a glass of bitter tea, it's very bitter. This represents the kung fu, the practice, the cultivation. But after the hardship, you drink baikai shui, the clear water, it tastes sweet. So ganlu shui, it's a sweet taste of water. Yeah. And this two goes together. So you need to have a hardship to get the enlightenment.
Describe your daily life there in Wudangshan for us.
For example, in Wudangshan, I practice Kung Fu a lot. I stay in places called Nanwudang. Nanwudang is a different place. There is a temple, it's called Wusheng Gong. And when I stay with my master there, we, of course, practice Kung Fu, but in the morning have the ceremony, have the morning liturgy. But I also stay in Dadaguan, Wuhan Dadaguan. There is my ancestor, my Shifu, live there and open the temple there and teach the Gaogong as the priest, the ceremonial, yeah.
So how about now? What about the Chinese, common folks, young folks, their curiosities about Daoism?
So in China, especially in China, I see a lot of young Daoists. They want to become a Daoist priest, so they start very early, Chujia, so become a monk, become a priest. And it's a different thing in the West, because in the West there is not so much knowledge about this kind of lifestyle as a Daoist priest living in the temple. But there is places, and we all try to develop this kind of knowledge, or also the transparency that there is something more beyond the Tao Te Ching and the philosophy that is well practiced overall in China. And it's a language barrier and also a culture barrier. So we try, me and also other Daoists in the West, we try to build a bridge so people can learn more of the traditions of the culture. The culture, the traditional Chinese culture goes hand in hand with Daoism. And you cannot separate that because it has a 5,000-year-old history. So this is very important to understand the culture, to understand this religion/philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do? I know you tried at least to translate Dao De Jing, which is the original script for Daoism, into many different European languages, English, Spanish, just to name a few. So when you are doing this translation, it's like renew the studying again, isn't it?
Dao Ke Dao, the Ke is a very important word. Lao Tzu comes from Luoyang, and the people in Luoyang use this word differently than anywhere else. So to understand this text, you need to understand where it's come from and when it's written. That's very important.
So tell us.
Ke is like in Luoyang they say, 你客吃饭了吗? Did you already eat? So Dao Ke Dao, 非常道, doesn't really only mean that the Dao you can name is not the original Dao, but Dao is everything. Everything and nothing. So if you see give me an example, you have a little dot, yeah? It's so small, nothing can fit inside. This is Dao. But Dao is also so big that everything is within this. There's nothing outside of this. And this is a good way of describing this.
How has the ultimate script of Daoism, Dao De Jing, and also your practice of this religion/philosophy helped you to navigate what you are encountering every day?
There's a sentence, 自见然, which means the three treasures of cultivating Tao in this world. In the Daoism, we say we have three treasures to learn the Tao: is Tao, scriptures, and the master. The Tao is within the scriptures, and the master teaches us the scriptures. But once we understand all this, we need to also live a normal life and live the Tao. And how to do this is Ci is being mercy, benevolent for all the people. So I live my life not only for myself. I'm not selfish, but I will try to understand everyone, also the reason why they do the things. The second is
empathy in a way.
Empathy is, of course, I have to understand why people do something. So, you know, therefore I can become in harmony with them. You know, don't fight against their reason or something like this. It's very important in nowadays times to understand the opposite person also think that they are right. They have a right to have an opinion, right? But if I have a different opinion, I need to not fight against this. This is not Tao, you know. I want to harmonize with this. So I try to understand the opposite and find a platform where we can harmonize. Yeah? Maybe sometimes it's just one word or one root. For example, the religions, these days we talk about the religion have one root. It is very true because we all want to be happy. And this happiness can only be achieved through harmony. Everyone is harmonious, so we can also be happy. The second word I just mentioned is Jian. It means simple. I have to live a simple life. If I earn a lot of money, it's fine, but I cannot take it with me once I leave this human realm. So I can also use my wealth to do very good things. 善人做善事. So if I do good things, this will also benefit me and also others ultimately. So the third one is don't put myself in front of others. So 让, we say 让, let others go first. So for example, I give another example. If I want to help someone, I do it from my heart, not because I expect something back. I do it because this person needs my help, and not maybe I can gain something out of this. This is selfishness, basically, can say like this. Yeah.
How would you be able to connect it to the world? I mean, in a quote-unquote connected to the world and know what's going on and try to see how people work and live, but at the same time, be able to upgrade, go inward, as you said. This is a very interesting balance, I also see.
Yes. So as you said, I'm very observant. I like to look at people. Sometimes I look at people from inside out, so I can also see what the person's disease are, because I study this. Daoist medicine doesn't necessarily look only at the disease, but also look at the spiritual part. So I can see people through them. So I can observe a lot of people, and therefore I train myself in this way also.
And finally, before we go, what is your next goal?
The next goal is to reach more people in the West through the translations and also through the new way we started. We have a new direction with each country uses their own language to practice and cultivate the Daoist scriptures and do the ceremonies. So in the moment, or until now, we, or my students and I, we only use Chinese language to recite the scriptures. We used the translation before only for understanding, but now we find a good way to also use the translations with the music together and make the ceremony in English, in German, in Spanish, and so on. This is the next step in our way.
How do you see the East versus the West, the so-called civilizational clash, or the so-called mutual learning of civilizations?
We need to find mutual respect in the religion, in the civilizations, in the politics. I think that's the best way. And Daoism gives us a good tool to understand this harmony can only help us to develop the whole world basically into a better place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. I'm very honored.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honor is mine.